The first time I set foot in Grandma Margaret's house, I didn't know what I was walking into. It was a massive Victorian mansion in the middle of nowhere, Maine, with peeling paint, warped wooden floors, and windows that reflected the dying sunlight in sharp, strange angles. The air smelled faintly sweet, almost like decayed flowers, mixed with the scent of old wood. My parents insisted I spend the summer with her, and at first, I thought it would be quiet, even pleasant. But there was something off. The halls were too long, the rooms too narrow, and the shadows seemed to stretch in ways that didn't make sense. On my first night, I noticed it, a faint tapping sound, like tiny nails against the wood, coming from the corner of my bedroom where a single porcelain doll sat on a small table. Its eyes were glossy, unnervingly so, and I could have sworn they followed me as I unpacked. I laughed nervously, convincing myself it was just my imagination. By the next day, I realized I had been wrong. Every room, every hallway, every nook was filled with dolls. Hundreds of them. Some sat in glass cabinets, some perched on chairs, and others on the floor, their tiny faces frozen in expressions that were both innocent and threatening at the same time. Some smiled, some frowned, but all of them seemed to be watching me. When I asked Grandma about it, she just smiled softly, a strange glint in her eye. "They keep me company," she said. "They like new visitors. It excites them." I forced a laugh, but my eyes kept darting back to the cabinets. One doll in particular, a tiny girl with a cracked porcelain face and pale blue eyes, seemed to have turned slightly, its head tilted in curiosity. That night, sleep did not come easily. I woke to the sound of footsteps, not from the hall, but inside my room, light tapping across the floorboards. When I switched on the lamp, the room was empty. The doll on the table had shifted. Its head was now perfectly aligned with mine, staring directly at me. Fear rooted me to the bed, and I swore I saw it breathe. My mind tried to rationalize it. Maybe Grandma had moved it, maybe the floor shifted, maybe I was dreaming. But deep down, I knew that something was very wrong. Over the next week, I began noticing more strange occurrences. Dolls that had been in one room appeared in another. Dolls that had been lying down suddenly stood upright. I heard whispers, soft, melodic, almost hypnotic, calling my name when no one was around. At first, I convinced myself it was the wind, or the house settling, or even my own imagination. But the more it happened, the more I realized that the whispers were not the wind. They were coming from the dolls themselves. Each night, as I lay awake, I felt them moving closer. Tiny hands brushed against my arms, their porcelain cold and unyielding. Curiosity and fear collided, and I finally confronted Grandma. "Why do you have so many dolls?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my effort to sound calm. She looked at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "They're not just dolls," she said softly. "Each one has a soul. They remember someone who shouldn't be forgotten. And sometimes, they want company." I laughed nervously, but I could see the truth in her gaze. I felt it before I even wanted to admit it. The house wasn't filled with toys. It was filled with prisoners, captured in porcelain skin. The first attack happened that very night. A doll's hand grazed my arm while I slept. I woke screaming, and Grandma appeared instantly, as if she had been listening all along. "They're sensitive," she whispered. "You mustn't scare them." But the attacks escalated. Dolls lunged at me, their tiny forms impossibly fast. They blocked hallways, corners, doors, and windows. I tried to escape, but the house refused to let me go. Sleep became impossible. My mind was fraying. Each night, I dreamed of endless hallways lined with dolls, their eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. At the end of the hall, Grandma always waited, whispering that I had no choice. The weeks passed, and I began to change. My fingers stiffened. My skin felt smooth, almost too smooth. Cracks began appearing along my arms, subtle at first, then widening. My reflection no longer moved the way I did. Every mirror, every glass surface reminded me that I was no longer fully human. The dolls watched, patient and satisfied, waiting for me to understand. I tried to run. I tried to leave. But no doors, no windows, no road could free me from their gaze. One night, the whispers became voices. They spoke in unison, a chorus that rattled my mind. "Join us. Say. Be one of us. I couldn't move. My body refused. My reflection stared back at me from the cracked mirror, porcelain eyes wide and unblinking. I realized the horrifying truth. I wasn't being haunted. I was being prepared. Each doll had once been someone like me, someone who stayed too long, someone who tried to leave. They had failed. And now, it was my turn. I lost track of days, weeks, maybe months. Time held no meaning in that cursed house. The dolls moved constantly, rearranging themselves while I slept, whispering in languages I couldn't understand but knew I feared. Grandma appeared sometimes, ghostly, smiling as she dusted invisible shelves. "You were special," she would whisper. "They'll take good care of you. Just like they did me." I wanted to scream, to beg, to fight. But my voice was gone. Only the whispers remained. When the summer ended, and my parents came to take me home, the house was silent. No signs of struggle. No trace of me. Just an empty room and hundreds of porcelain eyes staring out from the cabinets. Back in the city, I thought I had escaped. But the dolls followed. They appeared in corners of my apartment, in cupboards, on shelves, always staring. At night, the whispers returned, faint at first, then rising in intensity. My dreams were filled with endless hallways of dolls, all turning their heads in perfect unison as I ran, trying to find an exit that did not exist. Months passed. My hands cracked, my joints stiffened, my body slowly transforming. Mirrors no longer reflected me. Every day, the presence of the dolls became more suffocating, more real. I tried to warn others, but my voice had become a whisper, a faint plea that could not escape the porcelain prison I was becoming. The apartment walls creaked with voices, footsteps, and soft taps. I was never alone. They were always there, moving, watching, waiting. Eventually, I stopped resisting. The transformation was inevitable. The first time I touched another doll, I felt a strange connection, a warmth beneath the cold porcelain. Grandma's words echoed in my mind, "They'll take good care of you, just like they did me." And I understood. Resistance was pointless. Escape was impossible. Time and space had no power here. I was becoming part of the collection, a new soul captured in porcelain, eternally bound to the others. Now, when people walk past that building, or hear the faint whispers in old apartments, I am there. I am the doll on the shelf, the one staring at you with glassy, lifelike eyes, whispering softly, warning you not to look too closely. Once Grandma's dolls choose you, there is no leaving. They never die. And now, neither do I.